Hi guys, and welcome back to the world of 28mm. In this week's episode we're going to be taking a look at how to paint rocks. And you think, well, it's not exactly that hard, and it really isn't. I've been experimenting with different colours for the moor-time board because we want some rocks underneath the docking area under the water level, so adds a bit of extra depth. So I figured, well, I'll do a video, show you guys how to do it and the different results that I've got from my experiments. Okay, so let's head down to the table and we'll crack on. Alright, see you in a sec. Okay, so in the palette here to the right, I've got some grey mixed up, which is a storm cloud grey. I've got some plain old black mixed up and some burnt umber and some dark green on the side there. Okay, and those are the four colours we're going to be using for our rocks. Actually, I might just darken that grey down just a tad there. Oh, yeah, that's better. Okay, and these are all washes, and this is how we're going to achieve the effect of staining the rock rather than painting it directly. There, so we've got a nice dark grey. Okay, I've got some rinsing water here to my left, and I have some wet water as well to go with it. Okay, so with a nice clean brush, we're going to first of all take this wet water. I'm just going to brush it all over the rock, and what this will do, this will saturate it with water so that when we come to put our washes on, it won't instantly soak in, it will run down the cliff face. Get down there, get underneath it there. Okay, make sure it's nice and wet. Like I say, it enables the paint to flow better. Okay, I think that's enough. So we'll put that wet water to one side, and I'll just take a bit of moisture off my brush. So first of all, we're going to go into the grey, and we're just going to douse the whole rock in this nice grey and let it run into all of the cracks. See how that flow aid is helping? Get some up at the top here as well. There. Now we're going to have some pooling and things like that, so what I'm going to do is just take off the moisture off of my brush with a bit of paper, and I'm just going to come back in and just dab over it lightly and take away some of these areas where it's got a bit excessive. And I'll dab that off again. And we'll just go back in. There. Okay. Sorry about that. Decided to excuse me. Decided to change the angle of the light because it was a bit dark. Okay, so we've got that light grey down, and we've taken off the excess bits of pooling. It's still all wet. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a bit of our black wash that we've made up, and we're going to drop a bit into the original grey that we used. Do it slowly at first, the amounts of black, because we only want to tone it down slightly. I'll put a bit more in there. There we go. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so we've got a nice dark grey here. There we are. And then starting off with your bigger areas, so let's go down here. We're going to put this darker grey around to create a shade. Might switch to a smaller brush. Yeah. Oh, I seem to have lost my other little brush. Where did that go? I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so with our smaller brush now, we're going to go around the deeper areas where we're going to find more shading. So around there, put a little bit in there. Blocking my own light. A little bit underneath there. In there. We're just going to pick out the darker areas, as I say, create that shading. So put a bit in there. Come around here. Okay, and once you're happy with the placement, then we're just going to clean off our brush. And we are going to feather it in just with a wet brush. Once again, if you get a problem with pooling, just dab the moisture off your brush and come round and pick it back up again. Okay, I'm going to come in with a bit more of this dark one just around the base. Okay, we're just going to feather that in now. Okay, so there's our 2 layers of grey. Now, if you want to darken it down even more, we can go straight in with a black. If you've got some sort of very deep crevices, so let's say it would be quite shadowy down here, just put some straight black around the edge there, like that. Then we'll take the moisture off our brush again, and then we'll just come in and feather it out. Okay, so there's our greys and our blacks. Now all that's really left to do for this one is to add a little bit of weathering, so a bit of mud and a bit of moss, and I've got some burnt umber with a slight bit of black in it in here. And then we're just going to come in where the sort of the dirt would naturally sit. So we're going to put it around the base of this top bit here. And then we're going to have a bit come down here, a bit down there. And then we'll put some over this side as well, so we'll have some coming down there. Bit of dirt collected down here, that. And a bit over here just because it's a little bit. We'll have a little bit underneath there as well. Okay, so once again we dab off and wash off our brush, dab off any excess water, and then we just come in and blend this in. Sorry if I keep catching the I'm getting in my own light here. It's very hard to come up with a good camera angle and a good angle of lighting for you to be able to see this properly. I'm just going to put a little bit more burnt umber underneath there. So, okay, just blend that in. Yeah, so now you can see we're really starting to get a bit of life in here now. It's not just plain old greys and whites, which can be good if that's the effect that you're going for. Okay, so oh, excuse me, just a tad bit more just down at the bottom here. There. Clean off the brush, take off excess water, and then just blend it in. Okay, so I'm happy with that for the brown, and then lastly, with a clean brush, we're going to come in with this nice dark green, and we're just going to once again put it where moss or grass might collect on the rocks. So I'm going to once again go up here, have a little bit collecting in these crevices here, and a bit down here. I might have chosen, that's okay, a bit round here, so it runs down there, and let's have a bit over this side as well. One more bit. You don't want to go over the top on the green. Let's have a bit in there. And some down here. So running down the bottom. Okay, so we're going to clean off our brush like we did with the burnt umber. Take off any excess water, and then we're just going to blend those greens in. So blend in with the burnt umber and the grey. A little bit more green down here actually. Yeah, there we go. Just feather that in. Blend it all about. Okay, so there we have it guys. I'm quite happy with that. That's the first test rock I did, or based on the first test rock I did of just greys, burnt umbers and greens. Okay, so I'll let that dry. And I'll put that to one side, let it dry, and I'll get the next bit out and we'll start on that one. Okay, so see you in a sec. So this rock is going to be coloured as if it's been underwater for a long time. We're going to use lots of dark colours on this one. The reason I'm showing you this is because it's done a little bit differently to the previous rock. This is an experiment for mine and Barney's Mordheim board, and I wanted it to be nice and dark and charcoaly. So what we're going to start off with is we've got our original, very original grey before we mixed any black into it. so it's back to that storm cloud grey again. And we're gonna, oh wait, hold on. Silly me, I haven't even given it a wet watering yet. That almost went terribly wrong. Right, so we'll put that back to one side. Don't need that again for a minute. So our first coat is going to be, like I say, that storm cloud grey. So we're just going to plaster this on. Okay, and same as before, we're going to get a bit of tissue and just take up some of these areas where this technique. What we're going to do now is I'm going to leave this for about a minute, no longer than a minute and a half. And what I'm doing, what's happening by doing this is I'm just letting the pigments settle where they are. We still want the colours to mix, but I don't want this grey to move about too much. Okay, so I'm going to pause it here and I'll come back in about a minute, just so I don't bore you guys with more footage, and we'll carry on with the next step. Okay, so I'll see you in a minute. Right, so it's been about a minute and a half. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go in with a straight black, and it's going to be the same as the first time. Douse the whole thing, or don't douse it, but you know what I mean. Do the whole piece. The bottom as well. Okay, and then we're gonna wash off our brush, take any excess moisture off. We're just gonna dab up these areas where it's pulled up a little bit. Okay, and once again I'm going to give it another minute and a half to settle, and then we're going to come back and repeat the same step again. Okay, so see you in a minute. Minute and a half has passed again, so we're just going to give it another go over with this black wash. Take up the excess pulled up areas. There. Okay, right. Yeah, happy with that for the time being. Right, so what we're going to do now, we're going to clean off our brush. And we are going to put some burnt umber on it. I'm not going to worry about green this time too much, just a bit of some run down there as well. So you can see this one this time it's a lot more saturated with water. Okay. Right. We're going to leave it there now. I'm going to give that time to dry. Probably won't take long, about half an hour to dry. And then we're going to come back and we're just going to finish it off. Alright, so I'm going to go and make a brew. I'll see you in a minute when this is dry. So here we are, it's pretty much dry. Now for the last step of this bit, what I've got is a plastic bristled brush. So this is quite, compared to the sable hair ones, it's quite coarse. So all we're going to do is we're going to go into our normal water. Okay, we're going to pick out the edges that we want to pop back out again. So let's take this little tip here, and then we're going to just take away or re-highlight the edges. Now what will happen is, because it's a coarse brush, it will take off that top layer of black, but it will leave that grey that we originally did underneath. So we're just going to highlight these top edges up. Can you see how it's starting to pop back out again? We're not necessarily getting that going back to the plain white, but we are actually getting the grey that we originally put underneath. Now you can do this with a cloth if you've got a big surface area to do, then you're probably better off using a cloth. But because there's lots of little bits that I'd like to re-pick out, I'm better off using a brush. Like I say, we're just going to go around the higher top edges that we want to bring back out again, remembering to keep your brush clean, because otherwise you just end up moving the pigment about rather than taking it back off again. Highlight this bit up here. That bit there. Okay, so I'll just finish off this top bit here so you get an idea. A quick wipe off. So there, you can see how I'm saying about it's working backwards. So we're taking off the black from the very high areas as a highlight, but because we've done that pre-coat of the grey underneath the black, then instead of taking it back to white, it takes it back to grey. So just do that bit there. You can see that pop back out again there. Okay, so I'll finish this up and I'll take a photo of it. I'll put a photo of both of them up and then I'll see you in the outro. Alright, so I'll see you in a sec, guys. And there you go, guys. That's how to achieve some realistic rock looks using acrylic washes. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. Any questions or comments, leave them down below. I always aim to answer as many as I can. Feel free to check out my Facebook page, World of 28mm, and share any projects that you're doing at the minute. I'm always interested to see anyone else's work. And the usuals for the video. Like it if you liked it, share if you think anyone else would like to see it. Don't forget to subscribe for next week's episode. Have fun, guys.